K&K Boutique is your one-stop shop for all things modest fashion for you and the little lady in your life. They also have designs that you guys can match. Check out their tops, their bottoms, their flowy dresses, all on their website, kkboutique21.com, and use our code HelloAwesome for 15% off. Treat yourself to the simple goodness of Oneness Essentials, all natural skincare, soaps, and candles. Each product is handmade and created with nourishing ingredients and genuine care. From skin-loving natural soaps and cozy candles, Oneness Essentials brings a little more comfort and kindness to your daily routine. Use code HelloAwesome for 20% off your order today at onenesssoapbiz.com. That's ONESSSOAPBIZ.com. This episode is sponsored by Ashton Qual, a holistic herbal skincare company created by a certified skincare formulator for you. Whether you struggle with dry skin, acne, or want to refresh, Ashton Qual has you covered. They have moisturizers, cleansers, facial oils, and more. Go to ashtonstoneskincare.com and use our code AWESOME15 for 15% off at checkout today. Hey guys, welcome to the Hello Awesome podcast. We have a very special episode today. This is the Wellness in Worship panel on Hello Awesome, and I have three amazing ladies who love Jesus, but they also love to be healthy. They want to try and make better choices for themselves, for their family, and they're each in, their own journey and their own process. And so I can't wait to dive into just wellness. What does it mean? How can wellness be worship? And so thank you, ladies, for joining me on the podcast. I am so very excited. Let us begin with introductions. We are going to start with Ashton first, and then we'll go to Liv and Kristen. So Ashton, just take some time to share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
All right. Hi. Thanks for having me. I am Ashton Qual. I am a mommy to a little 2-year-old boy. He's the best, and married to my college sweetheart. His name's Hunter. We are from all over the country. I'm from San Diego. He's from Minnesota. Our baby was born in Missouri, but we are now located in Seattle. We came to help a church. We've been here about 2 months. By the time of this podcast, probably 4, and absolutely love it. It's so beautiful. I told my husband that it feels like the mountain version of San Diego. God didn't give me the beach back, but he gave me pretty much the same place with a little bit more rain. And we absolutely love it. So that's a little bit about who I am. I was born and raised in San Diego, so I get a little bit of that crunchy, holistic granola girl vibes from there, but I was not raised that way. And when I left California for Indiana Bible College in 2017, my health and hormones absolutely freaked out. And we'll probably dive into this more later. But it led me on this journey to start Ashton Qual Skincare. It is a holistic and non-toxic skincare company focusing on acne and hormonal safe skincare. It's been a huge journey for me that's led me to discover a lot of health diagnoses for myself and for my husband. I have endometriosis and dysmenorrhea. My husband has Hashimoto's and a bunch of other autoimmune diseases. Like, the list is way too long to even get into, but none of that would have even been known, honestly, if I hadn't started Ashton Qual and started deep diving into our health and wellness. And now I'm on my way to becoming a health coach, and just helping people, not just with their skin, but their hormones. I want people to get a whole look at their health and be able to treat both things at one time, because it's not a one and done. Everything's connected. Your skin is such a sign of internal issues. So I'm on my journey. It's taken me a little bit of time. But yes, that's a little bit about me. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's great. And, Ashton Stone is a sponsor of the podcast. So go get the code, go order yours. And yeah, I can't wait to hear more. Liv, what about you?
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm excited. All right, so Liv Hill, I have two young daughters. Well, they're getting older by the second, which I tell them is disrespectful to do that to your mother. So they are 14 and 11. So, and we're having the summer fun. So they've already been out in the pool and having a great time. So thrilled to be able to watch them blossom through this season. I've been married to my husband for 25 years. We live in Tennessee, so we have the mountains here, and it's the best of all worlds because we get all 4 seasons. I'm the CEO and founder of Liv Hill Nutrition. So we are a Pentecostal nutrition company helping people just thrive in every area of their life. I grew up overweight, used food as a comfort, grew up in less than desirable situations and times, but my parents did the best that they could with what they had, and it led me to using food as a comfort. I overcame that, lost 150 pounds naturally, kept that off for 17 years. Through a very long story that I have shared on other podcasts, I was in a corporate career, planned on retiring from there, and God said, we have different plans for you. And that led me through some wilderness seasons and then opening up Liv Hill Nutrition. And so now what we do is help people find their way with their body. And so whether that be weight loss, muscle building, we do dabble in some hormone things there as well. We have 13 coaches on staff with us. We have 2 mental health therapists. So if you struggle with disordered eating, extreme emotional attachment to food, you can work on it from the mental side along with the physical. And by the time this podcast launch, I haven't said this publicly yet, but we are getting ready to launch a preteen and teen portion of Liv Hill Nutrition. So we are helping folks from preteen all the way to postmenopausal. Wherever they're at in their journey, our coaches have certifications and specialties that they work in. And so we are trying our best to help everybody feel as best as possible. And it makes such an impact in the kingdom. When you feel better, you serve better. And that's our main thing, is to grow the kingdom. And we are the ones responsible for that. Each and every one of us have a calling on our life. We have something that God has asked us to do. And when we feel better, the amount that we can pour back into the kingdom being the family that we're building at home, the kingdom that we're building with lost souls, it makes such an impact. So I'm blessed with the opportunity that He's given me to lead this company and help others.
Yeah, I love it. And Liv, I still, the amount of time that we have worked together, and even though I don't check in with you, every time I'm like, Liv will be so disappointed I didn't get in my steps.
No.
No, but you motivate me still, is what I'm saying. I still have, I still have just things that I've learned from you. I haven't lost them. So I do appreciate your ministry. And Kristen, welcome back. Let us know a little bit about you.
Well, it is such a joy to be back. I love being here and chatting with you ladies. And so for anyone new, my name is Kristen Thompson, and I live on the beautiful Oregon coast in Newport. And I have 2 darling boys, Marcus and Peter, who are 8 and 9 years old. Actually, Peter just had his 8th birthday last week, and I can't believe it. He's growing so fast. And my journey really started with my husband's health, and he went through horrific allergies, from head to toe hives every time he would get sick, couldn't go to work for one time up to a month, where it was just chronic gut health issues, and doctors just saying, bye-bye, just that's the way it is for you. Sorry, here's some pain meds. And it made me deep dive into the gut-brain axis and how the gut really controls everything in the body, and what you feed your body and what you feed your spirit really does come out through your skin, through your mind, through your mentality, through your heart, and it controls how you show up, and so it really made me wonder, like, okay, so what can we do to make this better? It's not just, oh, I'm going to just grab this to eat. Like, this actually affects us weeks, like days and weeks later. And so after helping him so that he has no allergies anymore, he can drink milk, he can have his tomatoes, his potatoes, his pasta, his French fries, he can have all of that. He really pushed me to go and to help others. And so he supported me to finish my Bachelor's of Health Science through Liberty University and to open up Restored Nutrition Coaching and my program, Restored Foundations. And the real focus of it is I have certifications in the herbal sphere, but a lot of people will come up and they'll say, well, what herb is going to help me with this? And I'll say, well, this herb will help you here, but it's not going to change the fact that you have this chronic hole that's going on over here. So why don't we focus on your daily habits? And then we'll put in some herbs to help you in the restoration process. But we really need to go back to basics first. And herbs can be just as much of a Band-Aid as any medication. And you really have to see it as that. But they can help. But I really guide people through that foundation process and then how to integrate those herbs in. And it's so wonderful to see when people change and when they grow and when they can get better. It's incredible to watch.
Yeah. And I love that story so much. God doesn't waste anything. He does not waste anything. And if we truly are followers of Christ, even if we're going through physical storms, emotional storms of life, health issues, it can be really daunting, but we have the God who created everything. And yes. I don't know how I could go through any health crisis or anything that I've gone through in my own body without the Lord. I don't know how I could have done it. Because he comforts us, right? Even when we are confused and we're not sure what's going on. And he really is, he is not the author of confusion. He will clarify the issues. So, as a church body, we have ministries for literally everything except for our health. And I see that there's a shift happening. We do have many of us who are aware that we need to eat better, that we need to exercise more. I'm seeing an awareness of that. I believe that's changing through businesses like the three of you, and so Liv, I'm going to ask you first and then we'll go around, but why do we and I'll just say overall Christians, because it's not just apostolics. Obviously we know as, Pentecostals, how things kind of run in our organization, but why do we as Christians tend to overlook our wellness and physical health, and how does that affect the way that the church operates?
Oh, it's such a good question, JC. And I could you want me to just rip the Band-Aid off, and do you want me to just say it like it needs to be said? Because that's kind of the Liv Hill way. I say it with like a little punch, but a little love. What I see is that one, so not so much Band-Aid ripping, but one is that there's just too much information and people are just overloaded with just general decisions. We're making, I think that it's 60,000 decisions a day, and you're looking at social media. One person says this, one person says that. So I think it's just an onset of we have way too much information and we're trying to make way too many decisions. So it's easy just to turn it off or put the blindfold on. The other, which is where I am going to pull the Band-Aid off, is that we can use our service to the church as a crutch. And we can say, well, I'm busy at the church and I'm in this ministry and I'm in that ministry. And so then we can blame, for lack of a better word, our ministries keeping us so busy that we can't steward our health. And we let that become the crutch or the excuse. And that is not biblical to do that. But people say, I'm crunched for time. I have prayer meeting. I have revival. We have praise practice, and they start listing off this myriad of things. And all of those things that they're listing off are services that they're doing at the church in ways that they're volunteering at the church. And so they use that when really God promotes rest. He promotes making sound decisions. Don't overextend yourself. And so I'm seeing that as a rise in people saying that they can't care for themselves because they're so active and involved in the church. And that couldn't be more unlike what we see in Scripture and what Scripture calls us to do. And so I think we have to be really honest with ourselves on some of those things and say, where is my time capacity? What can I do? And we'll talk more about some of those habits, I'm sure, along the way. But I think if some people are really honest with themselves, they do have some time and some capacity, but they're using all of their busyness, and a lot of that busyness, again, the air quotes, they're blaming on the church, and it's not the church, but they feel like that covers them from that. So I know that was kind of a rip the Band-Aid off thing, and but it's what I hear so much of.
Yeah, it really is true. And I've said it myself. I mean, multiple times, like, oh, it's Wednesday night. I'm the one, I'm the one that's going to be ministering. And so I can't possibly, figure this out. And then I do get checked in the spirit of like, well, wait a minute. I have a lot of time in the day.
Yeah.
And church service doesn't start till 7.
Yeah.
If I wake up, even if I wake up at 8, I have from 8 to 7 to figure out what we have to eat before we get out the door. Now, it's not always easy. It is something that it's a mental thing I'm keep going up against because it's years and years and years of that excuse. Mm-hmm. And so it's really that habit to change. But Ashton or Kristen, Kristen, I'd love to hear, your thoughts.
I would say, and I don't want to offend people, but I think we use the Bible as I can do whatever I want because God will take care of me. I don't have to take care of my health because I'm a child of God. He's going to heal me and he's going to make sure that I'm healthy. And I'm not saying everyone does this, but I have found this. Whatever evil thing you touch or drink, that scripture. Or, hold on. I don't know if that was correct. But
whether you drink, you're right. Whether you drink poison or whether you are hurt, you will be healed.
I've heard people actually use that scripture to me and tell me that it doesn't matter what they eat or drink because they're a Holy Ghost filled child of God. And so God will take care of them. And while, yes, I do believe God will take care of us and God will heal us. And God will provide for us and he will heal our bodies and make us whole. I totally believe that. And I've seen it. I also know that he calls us to be a steward of our health. Yeah. And he's given us our body, which we believe is a temple. And we believe that in outward holiness, but we don't take it seriously with inward health and inward holiness, as in what we eat and drink, that it's like, it doesn't matter. God will take care of it. And what a disservice, because you are not allowing the Lord to use your body to its full capacity for the ministry. Say you do have all these events. You can't show up to those with your full energy and your full, honestly, your full mental involvement because your body is so fatigued, your mind is so fatigued because you're using the excuse that doesn't matter what I do or I drink because God will take care of me. But I have a strong conviction against my body as a temple. I must treat it as such with everything that I do, not just outward holiness, but what I eat and I drink so that I can be as healthy as I can be for his kingdom. So I can do the work that he's called me to do. And I cannot do that if I'm constantly in bed, if I'm always sick, if I always have brain fog. How am I supposed to minister effectively as he's called me to do?
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. And I think, echoing a bit of what Sis Liv here and what you're saying here is I think that a lot of, especially ladies, hide. They hide their health, they hide their issues, they hide what they're doing, and we dress modestly, but I think we also use that to kind of say, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I am fit. It doesn't matter if I'm, taking care of this. And when it comes to trying to change your habits, it's not an immediate, you get to see the change. It takes a long time for the fruit to come. And I think people get impatient with that. But I think for a lot of it is we hide. We just want to focus on what people can see and we want to focus on what's out there, but we don't take care of what's internal. And really what's internal, it always comes out.
Yeah.
And it's so important to make those changes.
Right. Yeah, that is true. And, when you guys were talking, I wrote down lack of accountability. and testing the Lord.
Yeah.
And that I felt that in my spirit of like, wow, just, I mean, there are some things, yeah, God's got it, but he also has given us free will. And
Yeah.
our body is our responsibility. And how can we, as a church body, preach against alcohol, against drugs, against all those things, but don't touch my fast food?
Which is a drug.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. And and also testing the Lord of like, oh no, God's going to heal me. I think we have to be really careful when we make statements like that. I feel like there's almost like this arrogance or pride of like, oh, I'm a child of God. He's going to take care of me no matter what. That sounds like a very spoiled, rotten child to me. And this might sound harsh to some people, but I really do think, like Ashton was saying, it's that inward holiness. We talk about, we want to be separate from the world. It also has to be in our mindset as well when it comes to health, when it comes to wellness, when it comes to food. And listen, I grew up in a Puerto Rican house, okay? I am not shy with all sorts of like fatty foods, fried chicken, everything is fried. But I also know too, like going to Puerto Rico and seeing how they make their food different than how we make our food here in the, in the States. It's part of the United States, but you know what I mean. They have fresh fruit. They have fresh fruit. They have gardens. There's a lot of farmers on the island. So how they prepare their food's way different than how we prepare our foods here. So it's just a different mindset. And it really is. We keep waiting for other people to give us permission, I think, when the Lord's like, no, I gave you permission to like take care of your temple, right? And I agree with you, Liv, too. I personally am excited that we live in an age where there's a lot of information at our fingertips. Obviously, like my husband right now is on his own journey, and he told me some things that his nutritionist said, and I was like, perfect. I knew from what I've learned from like Kristen and Liv, different things I could tell him, but also, Google, YouTube. There's so many things out there. Not everything is right, but like you were saying, at the same time, it's so overwhelming. What's good advice? What's not good advice? And so, I think it's so important to simplify that. And so I'd like to kind of simplify just the overall thought of like wellness. And so Kristen, I'm going to start with you. How can we simplify our approach to being healthier?
I think it's the fact that I think what we can do is first recognize the fact that we have 1,000,001 options. There's bazillions of options shoved in our faces every single day. And when we go to the store, and it's getting worse, it's honestly getting worse. But when we look at, if we really wanted to focus on our health, if we just looked at what God made for food, unadulterated, and we just started with the protein, the vegetables, and the starch. And if we just pared it all the way down to there, not the fancy, like, oh, the protein powders and all of the things like this. Yes, we need our protein, but the thing is we need to actually just pare it down instead of going, well, which is this brand better? Is this brand better? Well, go and get something just simple. Just start there. And I think a lot of times we'll say, well, I want to get healthier, so I need this, collagen protein. I need this product. I need this product. Well, those are very expensive. You really just need to go down to what is on your plate for breakfast, what is on your plate for lunch, what is on your plate for dinner, and then add things in. You don't have to have all of the answers if you have that foundation first. So
No, I like that because I think we do feel like we have to have all the answers right now. I have to know the entire process. I feel like that might be just us in general as people. And then like, I don't know about you, but I get like stuck. I get like frozen. I'm like, wait. So then I'm inactive because I don't have the full plan. Instead of, like you said, just figure out what you're going to eat for breakfast, man. Like, just like simplify it. What are you going to have for this one meal? And maybe do that for a couple days of just focusing on that one meal. Okay, after a couple weeks, let's focus on the second meal. And then, I think some of us too that have families, we feel like once we start something, we got to incorporate it now across the board. Start with us first. Focus on your health first, because then when you get that information, you'll know kind of how to take care of maybe, how to serve others, right?
Yeah. And it's one example of it is that I've been eating eggs every morning for a couple of months now. When you start with just that one meal, you'll start to see where you need to fill in. So like if I'm eating eggs, I go, oh, I need some arugula. Well, I don't have any in the fridge, but I'll get it when I go to the store next time. And so you can see where those gaps are, and then it's easier to fill those gaps instead of having all of the different products and then trying to see where they fit in your day or all of the different things. So you start with that and then look where the gaps are. I'm not getting enough fiber, so I need some bread, or I need some oats, or I need this, and then slowly add in, and it'll make a big difference.
Absolutely. Liv?
Yeah, so, I'm going to give just a quick backstory. So I was over 280 pounds, and when I was over 280 pounds, where do you start from that? Where do you go? It's like I was in my early 30s, late 20s, and so how do we turn that ship around without doing the extremes? And so, I encourage people, like what Kristen was saying, like start small. And I always like to give this, it's not an analogy, this story for myself. I didn't like to move. I did not like to sweat. My doctor said, you're going to go on blood pressure meds. And I was like, what are those? Again, I was in my late 20s. I didn't even know what blood pressure medication was. And he said, well, you can either start sweating or you can go on blood pressure medicine. And I was like, well, I don't want to do either one of those. And so he gave me the prescription, and I walked out and I never filled it, which wasn't wise. But where I started was, I did a yoga video, and I'm dating myself because it was a DVD, and I put the DVD in, and I did that for 5 minutes. And the yoga DVD, I kid you not, I was laying on the floor and breathing. Like literally, that's all I was doing. But I walked out of the spare bedroom after doing the yoga video, and I was like, I just worked out, and that's how my mind computed that at the time. And I didn't really, I was burned, not that it's about burning calories, but probably burned like 3 calories. But I stayed with that and did that yoga video for a couple of months, and felt like I had conquered the world because I had done that. And then it evolved over time to like, okay, now I'm going to start walking, and I would walk like a mile a day. And it evolved over time. And so allowing yourself, if you don't know where to start, or you're like, I need 75 things, is to pick something that is sustainable that you can stick with on your crummiest day. On my crummiest day, I could do a 5-minute yoga video. And so that starts to build up your confidence that you can hold on to that. The other thing that I did, these were the only 2 things that I did when I started my weight loss journey, was the 5-minute yoga video, and I started taking my lunch to work, because I would go out to eat for lunch every day. And when I took my lunch to work at the time, it was a lean cuisine and an apple. So it wasn't meal prep, it wasn't Pinterest. And so could I take a lean cuisine and an apple to lunch every day on my crummiest day? I could. Now, I know that we can get into the optimal lean cuisine and the additives and all of that, but when you compare like the lean cuisine to I was hitting a drive-through and going out to eat every day, like that was an improvement. And it is an improvement in a calorie sense, and it was an improvement in what I was putting into my body. But when you are looking at, I don't know where to start, I don't know what to do, pick 2 things that you can achieve on your absolute crummiest day, but feel good about that. Like I wasn't going to bed at night saying, man, I only worked out for 5 minutes, and all I did for my food was take the lean cuisine. Like I was like, I worked out today for 5 minutes, baby. I got it done. I took my lunch, because that was such a change for me. So that's where I would say, if you're feeling overwhelmed, start baseline that makes you feel like you are accomplishing something, because you are, but you don't want to say, what can I do on my best day? Because on Monday, we're all fasting, talking to Jesus, eating all whole foods on Monday, right? But then what are we doing on Thursday? So you want to look at that like crazy schedule, going back to the excuses thing. What can you do on your absolute busiest day and knock out of the park? And that's always where I would start.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
I agree. And just the switch up, and I shared this before we started recording, actually before you jumped on, Liv, but I was like in my early 20s. I was working at the airport in the food court, and every day I'd have a Big Mac meal with a vanilla or strawberry shake every single day. And I didn't think it made me sick. But looking back, I had the worst skin.
Yeah.
I had horrible energy. I also was very irritable, which I don't know if much has changed about that, but, perimenopause and everything.
Perimenopause.
But I look back and I go, oh my gosh, like I literally was eating like rocks. I don't know. And if you have fast food once in a while, we're not saying that, like, it should be something that like you do once in a while, maybe not just a habit. We're talking about forming habits. And I do remember, when I switched jobs and started working at the bank, I'd started doing the same thing, going to KFC every day, getting a KFC bowl. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should start making a sandwich and bringing water and just doing that. And for me, it wasn't really weight loss. For me, it was more energy, because I was always such a petite person, but I have a fast metabolism. Well, I'm burning all this stuff that's not even really good fuel for me. So anyways, I just think that's just great advice too, of just focusing on, do 5-10 minute workout. I know when I started like working out, people say, oh, you're thin, you can work out. It's like, this is not how that works, by the way. My body's not used to that kind of movement. It doesn't matter what weight you are. Like, your body has to get used to different movements. And so I have this, I'm just going to plug my favorite YouTube channel is Grow with Jo. I love her. She's Christian, and she does all sorts of really fun exercises. And sometimes there's like 30-minute video, 15, 10-minute video. She has all different kinds. So there's a plug there. But Ashton, I like to hear, your advice. How can we simplify like approaching being healthier?
If you don't know me very well, I've had this conversation with Liv a couple of times. I am off the deep end. Like, I am full blown birth in a bathtub in 4 hours. I have nothing in my home besides my furniture is toxic. And even that I'm working on changing. I wear 100% cotton. Like, I am off the deep end. But I did not arrive here overnight. It wasn't one day I decided to throw everything out and become completely crunchy to the max, like crazy almond mom. Like, this wasn't my plan. But I have people tell me, Ashton, I can't live that way because it's so overwhelming and it's so expensive. And how do you do that? And I literally tell them, well, I started with one thing. I started with my skincare. I started with changing out, making my own stuff. But that started turning into, oh, I'm out of shampoo. Let me buy a healthier version. Oh, I have Clorox wipes in my dorm room and they're empty. Maybe I should buy something that's more non-toxic. And this has more to do with like living as a whole non-toxic and less about food. But that bled into my food. Okay, I'm out of pasta. Let me go refill that and let me buy a better version of that. Let me choose an organic option. And honestly, I've done the math. I've done the math extensively because we live in one of the most expensive cities in the United States, and groceries are not cheap, and having a toddler is not cheap. And there is not much of a price difference between eating out every day and buying completely organic. And that's a lie that people have bought into, is that I can't afford to do this. Yeah. But I argue that you can afford to start small. You can afford to buy one version of something better the next time around, not your whole grocery cart, just one thing, one pantry staple at a time, one cleaning product at a time. And I loved what you said, Kristen, like, you don't need every single probiotic, collagen, black walnut seed, whatever, all the things. And I have all of them. I love them. Like,
Yes.
give me the tinctures, give me the powders. I want to know about them. I want to learn about them because I think they're an asset, but they are not the solution. And I think a lot of people don't want to change. They want to buy a supplement to Band-Aid over. Like you said, herbs. They want to use herbs as a Band-Aid solution. But if you were to start right now, like Kristen, Liv, Ashton, I need to change. What do I do? Like these ladies gave you the best advice. Start so small. Make one swap at a time. Focus on one meal at a time. Move your body for 5 minutes at a time. And I'm 2 months, I'm not 2 months, I'm 2 years postpartum, which could feel like a long time, but your body holds on to so much from birth that even 2 years postpartum right now, I'm slowly starting to feel like pre-birth me. And that was something that was very hard for me. I gave birth. I couldn't work out like I used to. Foods reacted to me differently than they used to. My legs felt so weak, so weak. And I had to start from ground zero. It felt like I had spent 10 years of work down the drain. But I started small. Just a little 10-minute Pilates video. And honestly, I'm not even to 20 minutes yet. We're still in the 10-minute range because your body just needs time to recoup and recharge and learn how to do that again. So it's okay. All you're doing is a 30-minute walk and 10-minute Pilates or 10-minute yoga, and you're building from there. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to go and throw away all your polyester clothes and switch to 100% organic cotton, like everything. And every single thing in your pantry is clean. Just start where you can. Financially start where you can, and mentally start where you can. Sometimes it's just one thing.
Yeah. So
I'll
good.
add this, Ashton, that everything right now is like protein infused. It's like protein infused chips, and you'll see me post those on social media. But if you're spending double the money buying these protein infused things, and again, you're going to see me eating a protein bar on social media. So don't say, oh, she's being hypocritical. But what I am saying is that, for listeners, what I am saying is that if you, going back to what you're saying about cost analysis, I just bought a whole thing of grape tomatoes for 99 cents, right? So, I mean, when you pair that with, we're going to have that with some chicken breast tonight and some carrots. I mean, that meal is like $12. And so, but you'll spend $12 on a 4-pack of protein bars, where that chicken breast is going to have double the protein of a protein bar, and it's more whole food. So if you are someone who is working on getting in more protein, and you're like, man, this is really, really expensive. Well, look at the type of protein that you're eating, and kind of like what you said too, Kristen, like, the collagen infused this and that. And so I think that was a great point, that we look at health as expense. And that's a lie that we've been sold, that health isn't expensive. It's, the bells and whistles and sparkles on things that's really costing us the money. But if we get down to the basics of just a quality protein and some veg on the side, that's very cost effective.
That's so good. And the part that I would add to that is that we can actually nickel and dime our protein to our goals. And so like oatmeal will have 3 grams of protein per serving, or your green beans will have protein in them, or, your rye bread will have some protein in them. Those little 3 to 5 grams matter, and they add up. You don't have to just have 150-gram hit. You can actually nickel and dime your way up through the day. Those little sides, they matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
I think that's been helpful for me too, as somebody that I can eat a big meal. Trust me, I can eat a big meal. But sometimes I feel the effect if I have like like one item that has a ton of protein. Sometimes my body can feel that it hits me so much harder than if I just ate a little bit at a time as I go. But yeah, I think just starting simple, and I really, really appreciate everybody's insight on that. We know, and we talked about this a little bit before, like spiritual foundation is essential. Okay. And we've heard sermons preached about a solid foundation of faith. We probably heard that preached this past Sunday, trusting in the Lord, and all those things are great. Obviously, this full truth. But when it comes to our health, when it comes to wellness, whether it's about what we eat, but also, like Ashton was saying, what we put on, what we wear, what we have in our home. We're talking about as a whole, our wellness. We don't really seem to know how to address that foundation. I do feel, and as a minister myself, it gets fumbled. We're not sure how to handle that, and I don't think it's because there's not an answer. I just think that we have adopted unhealthy habits as a church culture that we don't know how to get ourselves out of, and rather than trying to learn how to get ourselves out of, we excuse. And so, Ashton, you talked about having to start with your skincare, and so I wanted to know. We'll start with you, but what has your journey looked like as you began to rebuild a better foundation for wellness?
Um, so this is no diss at my parents. Me and my mom have had this conversation a million times. My mom's Southern. I was raised on Southern food, but in Southern California, which Southern California is a very holistic place. It's very crunchy as a whole, but my home was not. I grew up with, I'm outing myself right now, 4 Eggo chocolate chip waffles with whipped cream and syrup every single morning for breakfast until I went to college. Pop-Tarts, Oreos, those are my main food sources. I was homeschooled. My lunches were Kraft mac and cheese and Uncrustables. That's it. By the time I got to high school, I had serious eating issues because everyone around me was skinny, tall, beautiful vegan surfers. And while I was thin, I didn't, teenage insecurities, I didn't see myself like them. I saw all the flaws and I saw how beautiful they were. And if only I ate like them, I'd be better. So I bought a cucumber and avocado and some feta. And that was my lunch. Like, what are we talking about? I would be starving all day long. And I'd go home and I'd eat an entire sleeve of Oreos, like binge eating to the max. Just lots of health issues that have led into adulthood that I've had to unlearn. But when I got to college and I had a little bit more freedom, essentially, to buy my own groceries, I started to learn about food. We just didn't learn about it. My mom did her best. We lived a very busy lifestyle, pastors of a church. We ate very fast meals. We ate out a lot. And when I came to college, I was so tired of being so sick. I mentioned earlier I was diagnosed with dysmenorrhea, which is essentially, sorry for any male listeners, essentially that's just a doctor's way of telling you have incredibly intense period pain and we don't have a reason for it. Take 800 milligrams of ibuprofen every day the week before your period to alleviate that. You also have endometriosis and a tilted uterus. Good luck. I've come to find out through this whole journey that that's all inflammation and all this stuff. It's been a really cool journey. But when I got to college, I was so sick. I was missing classes. I was so irritable, in chronic pain, throwing up. It just wasn't working. And on top of that, my skin was a disaster. And for me, being an 18-year-old girl who has never dated in Bible college, aka bridal college, my skin had to change. Like, that was number one. I didn't care. I'd deal with the pain later. Like, we'll deal with issues going on in my body later. But right now, I have to get cute because I said I wasn't there for a man, but aren't we all, So I literally did a deep dive on skincare. I knew I wanted to go the more natural route. I'd always done clean and clear, Neutrogena, like scrub it off, burn it off. I'm talking cystic acne lining my face. And it led me to one of our recipes that we have now, a very, very early version of it is developed and changed since, but it was a natural product. It changed my skin like overnight. And I started making products for other girls, started seeing a lot of results. My skin changed, other girls' skins changed. I started a company. I was like, yes, I found the solution. And then bam, my acne comes back. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I make skincare for other people for a living. Why does my skin look like this? Since then, I have gone to school for holistic skincare. So my formulas have changed drastically, but I also have learned so much about gut health, hormonal health, how your acne is connected to your liver and your gut and your hormone levels. And I got a diagnosis of endometriosis, of dysmenorrhea. I started to learn what all of those things meant and how they connected with my skin. And honestly, I felt so like I had been failed. Like I had no one had told me. No one had told me that my gut was what was causing my acne. No one had told me that what I eat affected not, I was skinny, I was thin, so everything must be okay. But my skin was showing those signs, those warning signs. And through this journey, I mean, a lot has changed. Obviously, I've come so far since then, but it has created a different mentality about food and wellness. And it's not just about those initial reasons for starting Ashton Stone, which honestly is probably vanity and wanting to not have acne. It led to my body is God's, and He created me beautifully. One of our taglines for Ashton Stone is unlock your natural beauty. And that's not to say you're not beautiful before you use Ashton Stone. No, but we want to help you feel confident and beautiful in the skin that God has given you. And how can you, if you're constantly like just covered in chemicals and gunk, and what you're eating is not praising the Lord? And it's led to this conviction of my body is so sacred that what I put in it must worship and reflect His goodness and His intention. Yeah. And I don't know if you've heard of like the Biblio diet or whatever. A lot of people are into that, just eating the foods that God has given you. I am not perfect at this. I am actually, because of my childhood, still a sugar addict, and we're working on that one. But I've learned how to swap things. Like we're going to swap things with maple syrup and honey and coconut palm sugar and cane sugar until you hand me that boba, and then I'm gone. Like you give me a boba and I'm out the door. But I've learned that my body is a temple, and I will worship Him with my food and not just with my lifestyle. I will worship Him with how I take care of myself, how I take care of my child, how I take care of my marriage, not just how I dress, not just that I don't cut my hair or I don't wear makeup, but I'm going to worship Him with the food that I eat. And I believe that glorifies God. It's been a very, very long journey, and I'm still on it. There's still things we have to work on, but I'm a firm believer that everyone has their own journey, and you don't have to do everything like I do it. You don't have to be off the deep end like I am if you don't feel that that's what you have for your life. But I've seen the difference. I can't go back, and I want to live the life that God's called me to live. And if that means taking care of my body this way, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful.
I do feel it's funny because I definitely, like with my first child, I was so crunchy. Like I was so crunchy. I was making our baby food. I did so many things, and then that second one hit, and my hormones just changed so drastically that I was like, anything that I'd said no to for the first one, I'm like, yeah, just give it to him. It's fine. And so, but it took years for me to realize that I was in survival mode. I was not thriving. And I also, I didn't grow up with my mom making fresh vegetables at all. It was all like canned green beans. She's bettered out. Things changed. But I didn't grow up. Salad was like iceberg and tomato. Like that was a salad for us. And so, getting married, and my husband's like, what do you mean you don't like know how to cook vegetables, or you don't eat vegetables? Because that's what they did, and not 100% healthy, but they were more aware of that. You do kind of feel like, oh, like nobody told me that was like really important. And also I realized, well, that's why I didn't like green beans, because it came out of a can and there was like syrup with it. But if I get pure green beans and you just roast them, I'm like, I like these actually. I like vegetables when they are not in like a syrup, and also just seeing how like bringing things back to the basics of like roasting veggies are so good because there's nothing really added to them. They are what they are. And so that has been huge for my journey, is like as far as like that my foundation, which I'm still working on, but that awareness of you don't have to do things the way you've always done them, but there's ways to do it. There's ways to do it in a simple manner. There's ways to do it, and for me, it was changing my food because I had a medical injury. I had shared this before recording, but I was always allergic to antibiotics. But I had on-patient doctor, who wasn't my normal doctor, prescribed me an antibiotic in the actual family that I was allergic to. I never had this before. And I took it, and it was like swallowing poison. It had burned the lining of my stomach, and it sent me to the hospital with colitis. I was 22, 23 years old. I mean, you're like, what is happening? What's going on? When you have an injury like that, you can't just eat anything.
Mhm.
And I
Right.
couldn't just go back to just eating all the junk I was used to eating. I was like, wait, hold on. So I had to simplify. I had to simplify even like all the different spices and all the different things that you add to food. And I really started to appreciate just simple meals. And I really had to work on a foundation for me. And then it was literally, I had that injury, and a couple months later was my wedding. And so I was extremely sick. When I look at my wedding pictures, I love our wedding. Our wedding was so fun. It was the only sunny day in June. It felt like it, but definitely that week. It rained all week, but that one day was sunny. Everything about my wedding was amazing, but I knew I was so sick on that day. I knew I did not feel well on that day because of my injury that had happened a couple months before. And I could see it in my face, in my skin. And so people now are like, oh, wow, Jace, you look really like healthy, good. I don't think I weigh more. I'm probably a healthier way, but it's because like, yeah, now I'm careful what I eat. I'm careful how much I eat. I'm just careful how I prepare things. Because I couldn't just eat something because I would get pain. It'd be instant pain. And so that's kind of like why I am kind of like passionate about this topic, and why it's actually a push for me having you guys on here, of just keep going even when it's hard, just keep going. And so yeah, Kristen, I know you were talking about having to help your husband, but what was your journey like?
My journey, for a long time, it took a back burner because I was postpartum and helping my husband. And so I just ate what he ate for a long time. And before I had my first son, I lost some weight so I could be healthy for having a baby. And then after my first son, I lost some weight so I could be healthy for the second baby. And then after the second one, every, then everything went crazy, and I was taking care of my husband, and then things kind of went from there. And my journey has, and it even continues on to today, where I have a hormonal issue where I break out in hives when I'm stressed and when I'm worried, when I'm anxious. It shows up on my skin. I kind of get red like a lobster. You'll just kind of see modeling up the side of me. Happens when I'm happy too, which is great. But yeah, people will be like, "Why are you?" And I'm like, "Well, it's just a thing. Don't worry about it." But it really came back to really highlighting the fact that I don't have to be the last one to be taken care of in the family. I'm just as important to take care of as the rest of my family. And so it is important to me to make sure I get my protein in the day, or make sure I'm not drinking coffee before my breakfast, or I'm not, that I'm making sure I'm drinking enough water. So it's something that it's really in the past 2 years that it's come forward, that it's like, number one, I have to take my stresses to the Lord. And I can't just internalize them and be like, oh, I'll deal with that later. I'll just, I can deal with it. I'll just take care of this. But actually, I take my things to the Lord. And then eating holistically is not just, for me, it's not just like, oh, it's nice to do. It's actually a requirement. It's actually a requirement for my health. And so I'm extremely crunchy. I drink raw milk every day. I have my own butcher for cows that I go and travel and get our cows and everything. And it's such a joy to be able to do that. But just the fact that it's a walk with the Lord every step of the way, and he really does care. Like Ash was saying earlier, he really does care what we put into our bodies. And when you actually take note of that, and when you thank Jesus for this meal, you're also saying, let this food bless my body, but I need to put foods on my plate that actually does bless my body. It actually does nourish my hormones and my gut biome. And so it's been a wonderful journey, but it's not easy, especially when you're trying to take care of yourself. Even if you have all of the knowledge, it's still, you have to make the right choices, and you still have to tell yourself no, even to the sleep of Oreos, which I'm also been guilty of. Um, but when you say no to those things that hurt you, you can say yes to the things that really do nourish your body so that you can then be available for your families. And it's so important to make sure that you make those choices. And that's not to guilt anybody,
Right.
it's to encourage. Make those choices that will feed your body and your soul and your spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. We are an important part of our families.
Yes.
It's okay to take care of yourself. It's not selfish. And when you said that, it reminded me of something. I used to drink coffee every day. And I'm not, y'all, I know we drink coffee. It's fine. But I was still healing from that medical injury. And I'm drinking this acidic thing every single day. And I remember thinking, why am I doing this? I do like the taste of coffee, but why am I doing this? And so I had to switch that up for a while to heal my body. And so I switched to tea. And so now I'm in the habit of, having one coffee a month, which is insane. I know some people are like, what? But I drink regularly tea. But however, because now that my body has healed and that part of me has healed, and also having some surgeries that I didn't know I needed to have. When we went on our cruise this past March, my husband brought me. We realized, oh, Starbucks is on the drink tab. We didn't realize that. Or the drink package. My husband had the drink package. He goes, oh, everything we get at Starbucks is on the drink package, so it's free every day. So he was so kind that he knows I liked iced caramel macchiatos. He'd bring me one every single day. And guess what? I wasn't in pain. I wasn't hurting. I enjoyed it for a week. Now, do I want to do that every day? I want to do it every day. Am I going to? I am not going to. I'm saying no, right, Kristen? But during vacation, I could say yes because now I have that foundation. My body understands like, okay, it's healed. It's not a regular thing. And I could enjoy those indulgences without feeling shame because it's not my everyday thing. It's not my normal thing. But Liv, I know that you've had, you shared your weight loss journey, but how did you begin to rebuild a foundation of wellness?
My journey is so long because it was 17 years ago at this point where I was at. I really hit both ends of the spectrum. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different things here. And one thing I want to say before I get into that is if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, man, like these four ladies like have their life together, like they are doing the things, they're like, eating all the great foods and all of this. I don't want you to feel this, and none of these ladies do. I know that you guys will say amen. This is not a condemnation, podcast. This is one to say, we have been where you're at, and any change that you make that you hear on here and that you've gleaned from this, like take that one change. And so don't look at it as like, oh man, I wish that I could. You can. We've all done it. You can. And we've all like shared our journeys, and I'm going to share mine because we're starting small. So don't feel like, oh, one day that could be me with like wistful thinking, like claim it in Jesus' name. Like one day this will be me and I'm going to start that. And so just inviting Jesus into the journey that you have, because he cares about the desires of our heart and he cares about what you are working towards and he cares about your health. When you think about how many times did Jesus perform a miracle through the body? And so people were coming to Jesus for healing of the body. And so that was one way when he was here on earth that he displayed his splendor and glory was through healing, and he healed the body. So God cares about your body. If you think that he doesn't care about your body, really spend some time with him, search scriptures, talk to him about it, because when I was, again, going on the journey of losing 150 pounds, which I didn't set out, like, I'm going to lose 150 pounds. I was like, we're going to see what happens here. And it just evolved to that over time. The reason it evolved over time is, one, because God cared about me, and two, because he knew that 20 plus years later, I was going to be running this business, and he was equipping me for that. But there were times where, I wanted the sugary snacks and I wanted to eat all of the things that I love. I mean, I was a very poor eater. I could have been like the poorest of poor eaters. And so I would go into a closet and journal, sometimes just sit there with the Lord, sometimes pray when I felt like I wanted to really just indulge on a lot of food that wasn't good for me, that I didn't need, because I had already had enough food for the day. And it was just that crutch of comfort. And so I really tried to turn to God for that comfort. And sometimes I would stay in that prayer closet for 5 minutes. Sometimes it would be an hour, but just asking him and inviting him on the journey. So I wasn't just relying on my willpower. And then, my journey's a little different because I lost the 150 pounds. As soon as I lost that, I became pregnant. And so then I got pregnant, and then me and Jesus got extra close because I was like, dear Lord, I don't want to put this weight back on after, my first pregnancy. And I never put the weight back on. So I had 2 pregnancies after that, and I never went to a place to where I put the weight back off. After I've lost the 150, I've kept off the 150. But after my second child, it got to the place to where I didn't understand food. There's a difference between losing your weight and maintaining your weight. That's two different roads for those that are struggling with a weight situation. And so I was trying to earn my food through activity. And so I would get up this was a typical Sunday for me with 2 babies. I would get up in the morning before Sunday morning service, and I would go run for 5 miles. Then I would come home. I would get my kids ready for Sunday school. My husband was praise and worship leader. He still is. He's praise and worship leader. He would leave, and I would get the girls ready for the rest of the time. And we're talking about the dresses and all the things, And then I would go, and I'm the Sunday school director. So then I would go, our church is about 700 people. I would go direct Sunday school, come home, get lunch for everybody. I would go back out while they took a nap, and I would run another 5 miles. And then I would come home and get everybody up, do all the mom stuff, get everybody ready, go back for a second Pentecostal service, and then come back home. 20,000 steps was not abnormal for me to get 20,000 steps a day. And so I was crying in the shower at night because my body hurt so bad. I was pushing my body to the absolute maximum. So I went from a place of eating a whole pizza by myself, McDonald's, Mexican and Dairy Queen, like just that, to the complete other end of the spectrum and not eating enough because I was so scared, and I'm going to put a caveat on that and come back, so scared to put that weight back on that I was pushing my body to the extremes. And I cried, literally crying in the shower because my body ached so bad. And I wasn't being the best mom that I could be. And I'm always going to be transparent about that because I was very short-tempered. And that's, that is what it is. And I'm not going to give excuses for it. So when I cried out to the Lord in that season, that's when he opened the door for me to learn about nutrition. And so I didn't learn about nutrition to start this company. But again, the Lord was doing a work because he knew I was going to start this company. I was still working my corporate job. But I learned nutrition and then learned how to fuel my body. And so then that he helped bring me out of that darkness. And I'll say for me, you're hearing, okay, well, you were overweight and then you were extremely lean and all of this. The reason that I was coming back to that caveat of afraid to put that weight back on is because for me, that was a deliverance. God had delivered me from so much bondage. For me, that weight and what all it carried was emotional weight, physical weight, spiritual weight. And so for me to put that weight back on, it wasn't a vanity thing. It was a bondage thing because I was like, God, I cannot go back to that lifestyle that I was in because you've already delivered me from that. And so now over here. And so, that's a lot of my journey. And I am so blessed that we have helped hundreds and hundreds of men and women. And I'm just going to read a little text testimonial, if that's all right. And I think this is where we miss the mark on things. And so a text that I got was, I'm excited. That's all I can say. It's crazy how confidence in yourself affects your outreach. And this is the point, is I've noticed myself picking up more socially at church. Usually I want to go straight in and sit down and be hidden because I felt like I stuck out. I have cold chills. I have a long way to go, obviously, but it doesn't make me feel the way now to be up to people and talking to them and socializing at church. And I'm not afraid to be around people anymore.
It's so beautiful.
Wow. That is
I could break out in a shout right now, but this is it. This is why, for my company, for Liv Hill Nutrition, why we do this is because we get texts from people that went to NAYC and they're like, I couldn't even walk to my mailbox when I first started working with you. And this is a real testimony. I couldn't walk to my mailbox when I first started working with you. And I took Hyphen Group and I have 10,000 steps at NAYC and I feel amazing. Wow. This is the why. This is not a condemnation thing. It's because God wants you to feel better, and just take it to him and talk to him about it. And this podcast, I always say this, if God has put resources in front of you, take advantage of them. Because he'll open a door, but you have to walk through the door.
That's true.
Amen. Oh my gosh. I got chills too. It's so exciting to hear those kind of testimonies. So thank you for sharing, because I think people need to know it's attainable. We're not trying to be up on our thrones, looking down at the peasants. It's like, no, we know exactly what each of us, what other ladies are facing, what other men are facing in the ministry. A lot of us have served in ministry. We have seen our families serve in ministry, our friends. We know that it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of you spiritually, but also physically. And so if we're going to talk about, okay, we have to make sure we're prayed up, make sure we're fasting, make sure we're in our word, then we also need to say, okay, we need to make sure we have good food. We need to make sure we have things that are fueling our body. We have to make sure that we are putting things in our home that's not going to make us sick. And it's not trying to shame you at all. I do believe, one of the reasons why I felt called to do this panel is we wanted to just, I know I felt like I wanted to bring forth voices that are already making a difference. Each one of these ladies are making a difference in their families first, but also in their communities. And we have so many great resources at our fingertips. And so I think hopefully this will empower you and not make you feel overwhelmed. If you do feel overwhelmed, you've heard all three of us say we also have felt overwhelmed, and we can still feel that way. We're not 100%. I always say, I say this for so many things, and my boys are like, here she goes again. But we're not robots. We're not robots. And you can't keep, I know for me personally, I could not keep going on survival mode and think I'm okay. And then shoving everything that I need to deal with away. And we talk about, facing things that we're addicted to, facing things that are sinful for us. That includes what we ingest in. And I've said this before, on other episodes, but what we ingest is going to come out. What we put in our bodies. I mean, it's truly biblical, right? I mean, you just can't take care of the outside when the inside is dirty. That also means our bodies, our physical bodies. That doesn't just mean our spiritual selves. That means our physical self as well. And so this actually goes right in line with the next part is, let's talk about how we operate within the church body. I know we talked a little bit about it, but, from conferences to district youth rallies to children crusades, you mentioned NAYC. We took it, my son now, Liv, I think our kids are the same age, but I have two boys, you have the two girls, 14, and the youngest is 10, but he'll be 11 soon. And so we went along with the youth group. My son was in the youth group and we went along. And it was the first time that I didn't feel so loss of energy. Now, it was very exhausting. Okay. The schedules for conferences are insane. I'm not going to get on my soapbox about that. Okay. There's not the time for that, but we might need to adjust some of that. But, we do spend, as a church, we spend a lot of time investing in many areas. And I think it's a great thing. And we're not here to bash the church or anything like that. But there should be always room for growth, right? And so, often when we're so busy, we're choosing the quick, the sugary snacks. We're choosing the greasy fast foods, either during the events or even afterwards. Where are we going to go? We're going to go to Chili's. We're going to go to, listen, I love a good steakhouse. We're not preaching against that. Okay. But we're ingrained, right, in how we operate. And so even what we have available, when we have a youth event, the first thing we think of is pizza and chips. Not saying that's a bad thing, but how many youth events do we have a month that's the same meal that we're giving our kids? And so anyway, so I don't know who wants to go first, but I do want to ask, how can we do better? How can we do better when it's so ingrained in how we operate? I actually talk to friends IRL, in real life, that are in churches in my district, that this is actually a burden for us as our elders are getting older. And we also are not providing healthy options for our elders as well. Our saints who come to services and they're faithful. And then we have a gathering and it's like donuts and pizza. And that they need to be careful with their sugar. They need to be careful with, all these different things. So how can we do better when it's so ingrained in how we operate? And what are some unhealthy church habits that we should probably change? And do you have any suggestions on how to do that? I know. It's hard.
Well, I have a lot of opinions, but I don't know if I have any solutions. And I think for me personally, especially with my husband has stricter eating requirements than myself, we've become very intentional in our home first. So if we're going to a conference or convention, we meal prep. And I know not everyone can do that. That's not the solution for everyone. That's what we do. I make sure I have protein and healthy options available for us so that we can go and hang out with, I'm sorry if you can hear my kid.
That's fine.
But we make sure that we have options for ourselves first. But I think as a church body, I don't think you can go in and switch it overnight. Pizza is an integral part of the youth experience. Bonfires, s'mores, pizza, that's part of it. And I think that we can start small by just at least educating. I don't think we have an avenue in our churches for that. And I love what you ladies are doing because you're opening that up. And I've even seen Liv, you've taught in churches and different events. And I think that's what we need. We need more of that. And the more we have of that, I think it gives people the tools to even understand to make better choices. But I don't know how you're going to take that pizza away from those kids.
No. And I think the thing is maybe have a veggie platter with the pizza. That's what I'm just saying. But but I agree. I think it is part of the experience. And I don't think we need to change it all overnight. Education, I think, is the main thing. And I know Kristen and Liv, you both can probably speak more on that part of how can we just do better, I guess.
I think it starts in the home. It's healthy homes make healthy churches. And so what I think with the pizza, and I agree, kids love pizza, it's a thing, but I think that when you create a culture at home of enjoying these foods, it's not a punishment, it's not a thing, but it's my youngest, he adores yogurt, just classic vanilla yogurt. It doesn't have anything added to it. It's just, that's the way he wants it, but that's what he craves. And we want to create that culture of just enjoying those whole foods. And so I think that will make it, and the impact of that will come to the church and with those events. But I think also if we think of those events and add in, have the pizza, but then also add in other holistic options, bringing in a type of cottage cheese with it, or having some beef jerky sticks with cheese or something like that. That's more protein focused, like with the donuts breakfast that some churches serve. so that there is more of that option. And I think you'll find that more people are gravitating towards that. Oh, I love the donut, but I'd actually really rather this right now, because they've created that culture at home that now I'm craving that more holistic food. And I think that we'll see the fruit of that soon. Fruit, pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I love what you said. Healthy homes make healthy churches. I think that's true. Um, and I mean, I know, Liv, you could probably talk more about this. For you're so good about teaching habits and about simplifying things. And so I know that this is like, we're not going to change the framework of our churches overnight. And I don't know if we need to change everything, but I do think that how we operate, how we look at what we provide during those events is important. But how can we do that?
Yeah. One, I would say that, gathering and eating is biblical. So we keep trying to separate those at times. And we're like, oh, all we do is eat. And, I'm all over social media constantly. And I get all the comments like, all the Pentecostals do is get together and eat. Well, I mean, that's biblical. I mean, breaking bread together. So I think that we need to, again, just reevaluate that thought process, that it's fine to get together and eat. That's how we fellowship. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, going back to, can we modify some of those choices? Sure. I do give seminars at churches, and I'll tell you what, those have been one of the most mind-blowing things and changes for churches. Is they allow me to come in, I do a seminar, and I will get text messages weekly from people that have attended the seminars, and they say, oh, I've changed this, oh, I've changed that, or revival is broken out in the church. And it's because they're starting to get educated on what they need to do, but it takes the leaders being open to those ideas. So the more education that we have, the more that it can help things. And, Kristen, going back to something that you were saying very early on about if you have the eggs and you're not having the arugula, look to add to. And so instead of take away. So I think we can use that same philosophy here. So keep the donuts, and that's the Liv Hill style, is, keep the donuts, but then add in a fruit tray on the side. So that way you have some options there for somebody to choose from. Because there are some people that maybe they know that there's going to be donuts at that event, and they've waited all week because they really enjoy having donuts and coffee. And so they've stewarded themselves at home all week long so that they can have that enjoyment. So I think that if we take all of that away, maybe that's not the solution, but looking at what can we add to. The other thing I would add is that, going again back to what you guys have said about what you do in the home matters most. We coach a lot of missionaries and we coach a lot of evangelists. We have a missionary, and she's on deputation, and she's lost 65 pounds on deputation. So, I mean, you talk about like being out on the road, but what we teach is control what you can control. So when she is in a hotel or at a home base where she can control everything that she's eating that day, control that day, because there's going to be days in the week where she has no control, and they're sitting down at a pastor's house that's hosting them, and who knows what they're going to serve. And so she's been able to make a lot of progress, 65 pounds worth of progress on deputation, because control the controllables. So when you're in control, don't hit the drive-through that day. If you know that there's events coming up later in that week, have the discipline to say, you know what, today I'm not hitting the drive-through because I know there's a hyphen event and there's going to be pizza there. And if I choose to not take my food, I know I'm going to be eating pizza at the hyphen event, but today I'm in complete control. So let me control today because that's all on me. And then I'm, again, if you want to eat the pizza, but some people obviously that might hurt their stomach and they want to take their food, you've got options there with those things. And I could get on a soapbox. It's not disordered eating to take your food somewhere. I look at, if you had, a gut response where you couldn't eat food and you take your food, well, it's the same thing as you just not wanting it there, but I'll keep that for another day. But all in all, I think it comes down to just education and, again, limiting the excuses, which I know is a little bit of ripping the Band-Aid off, but just being honest with yourself. Am I in control of today? I am. So let me just rock today out, do the best that I can. And then when an event comes up, I can have a little bit of flexibility. And then as a church, just staying educated, being a little progressive, which is okay, coming in and talking about food because your congregation wants to hear about it. And then secondary, the add to. What can we add to instead of take away?
Right.
That's so good.
It's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask this question, because I think a lot of people, when they feel like they have to change something in their personal life, everything's like heightened. They're like, okay, now everything needs to get thrown out. Like I have to switch out everything, like, and they go to church and they feel like overwhelmed with all the options and stuff like that. And so I really like what each of you have said. And I think it's such knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this whole episode is really about, is knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you can change. And like Liv was saying, only change what you can change. You can't change everything. You're not going to probably be able to flip the menu for your whole district. That's probably not realistic. And, you don't have to. Let's just maybe add in some things. Bring your own, snacks if you need to. Yeah, there are different things that we're accountable to do, and there are some things that are out of our hands. But to be open to that knowledge, I think, is the main thing. And I do think we are seeing a revival of people who do want that knowledge. They want to learn. They really do. I have seen it. I've heard, even offline in my regular life, people are understanding, this is what we're called to do. We're called to do ministry. We're called to certain things, and we need to be able to show up for those in our best way possible. Okay, so now is the time to walk the walk. And so I know that the four of us like to get stuff done with realistic, actionable goals. And the reason why I know that is because each one of us has a business or something that we're doing, a ministry that people see us showing up online and they think, wow, look at the, what God is doing, which is true. God is doing so many great things, but we are in a partnership with the Lord. He is helping us. He's leading us, but he also has given us free will, that there are certain things that we must do in order to show up and do, whether we are a coach, whether we are talking at, conferences or at churches, whether we run a skincare company or a business or a podcast. If God's calling you to do something, even if it's in your own home, with your own, wellness journey, there are going to be things that you're going to have to do. He's not going to do it all. And so we'll start with you, Kristen, and then we'll go around. But what is one thing that listeners can do today that will move the needle in their overall health?
There are so many different things. There are so many different things that someone could do, but it really depends on where they are and what they are struggling with. And so I would say, I could say drink water right now, or go to bed early, or turn off the phone, or something like that. But you're the one that really knows what you're struggling with, and the thing that you're holding out on and saying, I don't want to change this, and I would say the one thing is pray about that. And say, you know what, I don't want to give up my Oreos tonight, First pray about it, and then make a decision to change. Maybe instead of 4, have 2, something like that. But it's really about a battle with the flesh when we don't want to change. It's really about, who's in control. Is it God in control or me in control? And that's a whole thing. It goes down to salvation, but it's really look at what it is that you're just really holding on to, because Jesus can give you deliverance from that, but also the reason why you're holding on to that. And that's really what you want to get down to, because if you go just and say, okay, I'm not having any Oreos tonight, well, then you'll just quickly grab onto something else if you're not going to grab onto his hem. So grab onto his hem and talk to him about it is what I would say.
Yeah, it's a great start. Liv?
On my website, livehillnutrition.net, there is a survey for what's called the Missing Link Survey, and I would start there. It is a personalized survey that'll give you immediate results on what you need. So there's a series of questions that you can answer. It takes 3.5 minutes to take that. I would start there, because if your mind is swarming with what do I need to do, you can take the Missing Piece survey. I was used to saying the link. You'll see it on the website. It's in the link in my bio. there are tools that will start coming out to you based off of your results. So if you need help with consistency, you're going to see that in your results, and you're going to get some emails that help you build that consistency. So I've built that to make it streamlined and easy for people who feel overwhelmed and don't know where to start. Of course, prayer is always where we start, but for action items that we can take hold of and do in the physical body, I would start with the survey, and it's on the website. It's completely free. And then you also get linked up to get the weekly newsletter, which again is free. And that weekly newsletter gives you tips and recipes and all of that, just to simplify a lot of what we've talked about today.
Yeah. I love that resource. Thanks for sharing that. The more resources that we can trust,
Yeah.
the better.
The better.
Ashton, last question. What is one thing listeners can do today that will move the needle in their overall health?
I think for me personally, looking at it from a holistic perspective, making one swap at a time. There's one thing that you can swap out today, whether that's a food item or a household cleaning product, or even a mindset. Stress and anxiety have a lot to do with our health as well, even if that's a mindset that you have to give to the Lord. Just one small swap every once in a while. I like the 80-20 method. Most of us are familiar with that. You live your life 80% as healthy as you can so that you can enjoy the other 20% with donuts and coffee and vacations and all the things. But making small changes as much as you can in that 80%.
Right. That's great. And my advice is you don't have to do it alone. Try and find one friend, and you guys will be accountable to each other, and text each other, work with each other. You don't even have to have the same goals as each other. But having a friend is very helpful. And I know all three of these ladies wouldn't mind, having a friend, not putting more on their plate, trust me. But if you need somebody to talk to, I trust all three of them. And just thank you so much for all of you, being open and honest with us today. That's what we do. We have real conversations on this podcast, and we don't shy away from the hard stuff. And so I would just love for each of you to just share. Some of you have already done it, but just share where people can connect with you and work with you. We'll start with Kristen and then Ashton, and then we'll end with Liv.
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Restored Nutrition Coach. That's where all of my information is uploaded. I'm better on Instagram. And my link in my bio actually talks about a clarity call. So that is about helping you bring your diagnosis, you bring your blood work, and we discuss exactly where you're at and what steps you can take, whether it's coaching with me, or if there's something better that would fit for you. It's really about finding what's going on and what other options you have. And the reason why I opened that clarity call is because there's a lot of times we'll get a diagnosis and a bottle of medication, and then it's like, okay, you're on your way. And it's like, well, what now? What do I eat? What do I do? What type of exercises do I do? And what herbs can work? And I try to answer all those questions as best as I can. And so that's where you can find me.
You can find me on Instagram at ashenstoneskincare.com. That's our website as well, www.ashenstoneskincare.com. We have our emails are listed there, or you can DM our Instagram. You'll get a faster response. If you DM my personal one, you might get an even faster response. But if you have skin questions or any sort of questions like that, we can help get you a skincare routine built. Normally, you just have to DM me routine, and I'll get you set up with that on our Instagram.
You can find me, Liv Hill Nutrition, everywhere. I'm all over social media. I am on all the platforms. I have a YouTube channel that has workouts on there. I have a weekly podcast, Living Well with Liv Hill. It is the only weekly apostolic Pentecostal health and wellness podcast. So we have that. Obviously, we run Liv Hill Nutrition Coaching from preteen all the way to postmenopausal. We help with hormones. We do gut health. We have a partnership working for gut health as well. We can help you build muscle, lose fat, just steward your body, just learn about food, those things as well. We also do training. So we have custom training at home or in the gym that we work on as well. So we are all things health and nutrition based, one-on-one coaching. And again, it's all at livhillnutrition.net online with the website, or me on social media, Liv Hill.
Awesome. I will link those in the description. Thank you, ladies, for being on the podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'm so grateful for your time, for your, information, for your knowledge. And, let's just continue praying. Let's be unified in the spirit, and let's worship in spirit and in truth and in health. Amen.
Yes. Amen.